A do-it-yourself sled that works for the camping trip near your home or big hauls like Denali. My kids and I built one so that you could follow along. Hello again, I'm Jason. A tow-behind sled. I've used one. A lot, actually. Yes, polar expeditions, but also Denali, the highest peak in North America, pretty much demand hauling our gear along on sleds. We can add to the list of sled uses self-supported winter expeditions around the world. Maybe those types of trips aren't on your list, though. Well, I use my sled the most for accessing winter camps and even hut systems when road closures make getting into and out of the backcountry difficult if we're carrying a lot of gear for a multi-day outing. You can buy various pre-made versions of what are called Pulk Sleds, but today we are going to build one using the design I brought to Denali and which stood up well to the big weights and steep hills of that mountain. Let's start with a materials list, and you can find links to these materials in the description if you happen to be missing some of them. Safety goggles and work gloves. Either an angle grinder or a hacksaw with a cutting edge appropriate for working with aluminum. A drill with a 1/4 inch or 6mm drill bit, also appropriate for drilling aluminum. A socket wrench set. A tape measure. A grommet press with 3/8 inch, that's 9.5mm inner diameter grommets and eyelets. A Phillips head screwdriver. A permanent marker. A pair of sharp scissors. A lighter. 8 of 1/4 inch, or number 20, by 1/2 inch long, or 12mm, stainless steel flathead machine screws and compatible nuts with 7/32 inch or 5.5mm height. A roll of 1.88 inch, that's 48mm wide Gorilla Tape, some general purpose sandpaper. The base sled, and I like the ERA Pro Expedition sled, about 6 meters of 5mm diameter accessory cord, 2 aluminum angles around 1 meter long or either 3 or 4 feet, at 1/8 inch or 3mm thick, and with 1 inch or 25mm legs. 1 inch of 25mm diameter PVC pipe at least 5 feet or 1.5 meters long, but a full 2 meters long if you are a taller person or plan to use skis with the sled. 1 centimeter thick crafting foam cut into 8 blocks about 2 centimeters square, about 1 foot or 1/3 of a meter length of 1/2 inch or 6mm wide double-sided hook and loop strap, and 2 wire gate carabiners. To be clear, if you need to buy all these tools, then this DIY option is probably not cost-effective. But you can see that store-bought options aren't exactly cheap. The cost of the materials only, no tools, was about $125 US. On to the build, and we start with prepping our materials. With the sled, we are trying to balance weight against rigidity and length. The longer the sled, the more we can spread out our gear and keep it low, because if we have to stack high, the sled becomes top-heavy and can tip over. We want some rigidity for stability. Both of those properties make the sled heavier. I like the ERA Pro Expedition because I think it strikes a good balance, plus it has these pre-drilled holes. We will need to widen them a little with our grommet toolkit, and then add grommets to reinforce the holes. Now, we can work on the undercarriage of the sled. We use the aluminum angles as runners in order to help the sled stay on plane when we are on side slopes. But we need to grind down the front corner so that the ground can pass smoothly over the front edges of the aluminum. We roughly place the runners. We want to bias a little towards the rear, as that will see the most centrifugal force when on a side slope. We mark a length that is 50% longer than the height of the aluminum to get something just barely steeper than a 30-degree angle. While we are here, we can also roughly mark holes where we will bolt the runners onto the sled. Here we can use an angle grinder or hacksaw to cut the leading edges. Protective gloves and eyewear are a must. And we can drill in our holes. We have a few more holes to drill now, but this time into our PVC pipe. We want to make sure we have lengths of pipe that are long enough that the tails of our snowshoes or skis won't get caught under the sled. For me, at 5 feet and 6 inches tall, or over 1.5 meters, when I'm using snowshoes, that ended up being 5-foot poles. If you are taller or have longer planks on your feet, you need longer poles. The longer the poles, though, the more centrifugal force, again, on side hills, so don't go overboard. If we need to do any cutting to length, a hacksaw will make quick work. Now we want to drill a hole through the diameter of the poles about 1.5 inches or 3 centimeters from the ends. So each length of pipe should now have 4 holes in it. If we are cutting our blue foam squares from larger pad, we can cut our 8 squares at about 2 centimeters on each side. With our materials prepped, it's time to start adding the pieces together. Taking the end of our cord, we thread it through a back corner grommet from the bottom and then stretch it to the other back corner, leaving just a little slack, and run it through the grommet from the top this time. With the end, we tie a barrel knot underneath. A barrel knot is done simply by taking the end of the cord, wrapping 2 loops moving back towards the remaining cord, and then running the end through the loops, pulling away from the remaining cord. And then cut the remaining cord length, cauterizing both ends after the cut. We repeat the same process on the sides, making 2 side handles per side. And we do the same again at the front, but making sure to leave the corner grommets open for pole attachments later. I like adding the cord handles in this style because they can really be used as handles if we need to carry the sled. The downside is that it could allow our straps to slide around unless we pull the straps tightly. Now we can add the runners to the sled. We place our runners and mark the hole placements on the sled, then quickly drill the holes into the plastic. Keeping the flat head of the screws on the underside to reduce drag, we can use our socket wrench and screwdriver to tighten the bolts down. Now, we don't want the screw protrusions to rip any bags, so I place foam over the screws and tape the foam down with our Gorilla Tape. If people are wondering if this will last, these tape strips and the foam they are trapping on my original sled have never been replaced in what is now 11 years. We do want to make sure that we are not leaving any of the foam exposed to the elements, tucking waterproof tape down the sides and corners of the foam before securing the tape to the sled. Now we need to attach our poles. I use an X pattern because it is a simple way to create rigidity, and we need that rigidity when heading downhill. The sled will try to run, and the only way to stop it is to have the poles brace that momentum. With an X, we have 2 triangles, and triangles are strong. This is also where having 1-inch or 25mm PVC pipe is important. Smaller diameter pipe is too flexible to stop a heavier sled from bending the poles. I've used up to 60 pounds or 27 kilograms in my sled without issue. Taking our first pole, we want to run a length of cord through one of the pole holes and extract about a foot or 30 centimeters from the pole. Now we can tie another barrel knot on the outside of the pole. We can measure the cord length back to the pole, leaving extra for the next barrel knot, cut the cord at the midpoint, cauterize the cuts, tie the second end barrel knots, and then run the cord back through the pole. Underneath, we take the 2 free ends and tie a simple overhand to join the ends, pulling the cord in tightly. We want enough slack in the cord to allow the pole to fold over, but just enough. The tighter we make this connection, the less sideways play we will get in the sled when on side slopes. We can add the second pole to the other corner just as we did the first.
There we go.
At the other end of the poles, we need a way to connect them to us.
Yeah, that'll work.
So we thread a cord end into a pole from out to in and tie another barrel knot, leaving a bite about 4 to 5 inches or 10 centimeters protruding from the pole. Now, we thread the cord back into the pole and out the other hole. We may need to widen that hole some, and a wire coat hanger with a hook bent into the end can help. We can add an overhand on a bite to our protruding bite. That is for our carabiner, which can now be attached to a dedicated harness or a pack. Some will say never attach a sled to a pack, but I have found that as long as the pack has a robust hip belt rather than just webbing, and as long as I have adjusted my pack to carry mostly on my hips the way we are supposed to, the attachment to the pack has worked fine. The downsides are that there is more play in the connection, which means, again, more play for the sled on side hills. And some worry that if you need to take off your pack, you risk losing your sled. If we are in the habit of securing our pack on snow slopes, that issue is addressed. Some also demand a redundant connection point to us so that you can never lose all of your gear. I found that if I am in terrain where I risk losing my sled should it become detached, like say through a crevasse field, my team is also roped together, and that includes a point of connection for the sled to the rope. So we are redundantly attaching the sled to the team. To create the load-bearing triangles with a more permanent cross in the poles, we simply find the midpoint of the poles, cross one pole over the other at that point, and then take about 30 centimeters or a foot of the hook and loop strap and wind the strap over and across that connection point. We want some flexibility to allow the strap to slide up and down so that the poles don't just snap under weight, but not too much. So we can take our tape, cut a strip that is also about 30 centimeters of length, and then cut that strip lengthwise down the middle. With each half-width strip, we can wrap a pole above the hook and loop attachment and then below that attachment. We repeat with another 30 centimeter strip on the other pole. This has created points of wider diameter that can keep the strap from sliding too far up or down the poles. So there we have our own DIY gear hauling sled. When we load it, as we mentioned, we want to keep things low profile to avoid tipping over. We also want to put heavier items in the back so that it doesn't push the nose of the sled down where it could get trapped in soft snow. To strap down our gear, we can use our remaining cord and tie a trucker hitch. We have a short on how to tie an alternative version of that knot. Or we can use buckle straps if we want to make that additional purchase. I make sure to strap down gear across both axes. Hopefully, having your own sled will make big trips in winter conditions a bit easier when those trips demand a lot of gear. Have you used, or do you foresee using, a sled for winter outings? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you want to support us. For more information, you can go to our website at www.shortguysbetaworks.com. You can check out an older video we did on backcountry winter clothing, or maybe check out our entire winter series. We'll see you next week and keep on getting more out of that big outside.